I watched my husband kiss another woman on our 7th anniversary, and I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I just stood there in that dark hallway outside the hotel room, listening to her laugh the way I used to laugh with him, and something inside me went cold, stone cold, because in that moment, I realized I wasn't heartbroken. I was done. And Daniel Cross had no idea that the quiet little wife he'd been lying to for years was about to become his worst nightmare. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a marriage dies and how a queen is born. If you want to see how far betrayal can push someone, stick around until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always announce itself with fireworks and drama. Sometimes it just sits there in front of you, quiet and plain, like a bill you forgot to pay. That's what it felt like standing outside room 814 at the Grandview Hotel on a Tuesday night in October, our anniversary actually, though Daniel had told me he'd be working late at the office. Again, I hadn't meant to follow him. That sounds like something a suspicious wife does in bad television movies, and I'd never been that kind of woman. 7 years of marriage, and I'd never once checked his phone. Never demanded to know where he was or who he was with. I trusted him. God, I actually trusted him. But that afternoon, something had felt wrong. Daniel had been distracted for weeks, months, really. He'd stopped asking about my day, stopped touching my hand across the dinner table. We'd become two people who shared a mortgage and a last name and not much else. I told myself it was normal, that all marriages went through rough patches, that we were both just tired from work and life and the general weight of being adults. Then I'd seen the credit card statement. I wasn't snooping. Our accounts were joint, had been since we got married. I handled the bills because Daniel was terrible with paperwork, always had been. So when the Amex statement came through and I saw the charges, I hadn't thought much of it at first. Dinner at Marcello's, maybe a client meeting, flowers from that expensive boutique on 5th, maybe for his mother's birthday, though that had been in June. A hotel room at the Grandview. That one had made me pause. Business trip? I'd asked him that night over reheated pasta. He'd barely looked up from his phone. What? The Grandview. I saw it on the statement. I didn't know you had a business trip. Oh. He'd set his fork down, still not meeting my eyes. Yeah, last-minute thing. Conference ran late, didn't want to drive home tired. Booked a room. He'd said it so easily, like it was nothing. And maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe 7 years of marriage had made me cynical and suspicious and everything I'd never wanted to be. But then I'd noticed something else on the statement. The room had been booked for tonight, our anniversary. So there I was, standing in a hotel corridor that smelled like lemon cleaning solution and someone else's perfume, staring at a door that was slightly ajar. I could hear them inside, laughing, the clink of glasses, music playing softly, jazz, the kind Daniel always said he hated. I should have knocked, should have thrown the door open and confronted them both, demanded answers, made a scene. That's what you're supposed to do, right? When you catch your husband cheating? But I didn't. I just stood there, frozen, listening to the sound of my marriage ending through a gap in a hotel room door. You're going to get me in trouble, a woman's voice said. Light, flirty, young. Daniel's laugh. You're already trouble. I'm serious, Danny. What if someone sees us? Danny. Nobody called him Danny except his mother. Relax, he said. Aria thinks I'm at the office. She never questions anything. Probably already asleep by now anyway. The way he said my name, casual, dismissive, like I was a minor inconvenience he'd already forgotten about, that's what did it. Not the cheating, not the lies, the sheer indifference. I heard movement inside the room, the rustle of fabric, her giggle. Tell me again, she said. Tell you what? That you're going to leave her. Silence, just for a beat. Then, soon, I promise. Just need to figure out the timing. Her family's got connections, you know. Have to be careful. Her family's got connections. I almost laughed. If he only knew. I don't want to be the other woman forever, Danny. You won't be. Just give me a few more months to sort everything out, and then it's you and me. I promise. I'd heard enough. I turned and walked back down that corridor, my heels clicking against the marble floor, each step measured and precise. I didn't run, didn't cry, didn't fall apart in the elevator or sob in my car in the parking garage. I just drove home, let myself into our two-bedroom condo in the Marina District, and poured myself a glass of wine. Then I sat at our kitchen table, the one we'd picked out together at IKEA in our first year of marriage, the one we'd assembled while arguing about the instructions and laughing until we cried. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Daniel. I wasn't going to scream or throw things or beg him to choose me. I was going to disappear. But first, I was going to make a phone call I'd avoided for 7 years. The number was still in my contacts under emergency only. I stared at it for a long time before I finally pressed dial. 3 rings. Then, Arya? My father's lawyer, Vincent Zhao. He'd been handling my family's affairs since before I was born. Mr. Zhao, I said, I need to access my trust fund. Silence on the other end, then, are you certain? Yes. This will mean, I know what it means. Another pause. Your father will want to see you. I'll deal with my father. Right now I need you to set up a meeting with a divorce attorney. The best one in the city. I don't care what it costs. Of course. Arya, he hesitated. Are you all right? Was I all right? I was sitting in a kitchen I'd cleaned 1,000 times, drinking wine from glasses we'd gotten as wedding gifts, wearing the sapphire necklace Daniel had given me on our 5th anniversary, probably purchased with money he'd later used to book hotel rooms with another woman. I'm fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. I'll be in your office tomorrow at 9. I hung up before he could ask anything else. Then I went to our bedroom, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and started packing. Daniel came home around midnight. I heard his keys in the lock, heard him stumble slightly in the entryway. Drunk, probably, or just careless. I was lying in bed with the lights off, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He didn't check on me, just went straight to the bathroom, brushed his teeth, and collapsed on his side of the bed fully clothed. Within minutes, he was snoring. I turned my head to look at him in the darkness. This man I'd loved, this man I'd given up everything for. 7 years ago, I'd been Arya Whitmore, only daughter of Marcus Whitmore, founder and CEO of Whitmore Industries, one of the largest private equity firms in the country. My family had money that went back generations, old money, the kind that came with expectations and obligations and a life that had been planned out for me since birth. I was supposed to marry someone appropriate, someone from our world, someone who could handle the scrutiny and the pressure and the endless obligations that came with the Whitmore name. Instead, I'd fallen in love with Daniel Cross at a charity gala where he was working as a bartender to pay his way through business school. He'd been charming, ambitious, different from all the trust fund boys my father kept throwing at me. He'd had dreams that had nothing to do with my money or my family's connections. He'd wanted to build something himself, from nothing, on his own terms. It had been intoxicating. When I told my father I wanted to marry Daniel, he'd given me an ultimatum: choose the family or choose him. Not both. I'd chosen Daniel. I'd walked away from my inheritance, from the company, from everything I'd been raised to expect. I'd gotten a job as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, lived in a modest apartment, learned to budget and grocery shop, and live like a normal person. And I'd been happy, or at least I'd thought I was. Daniel had proposed in that cramped apartment with a ring he'd saved for 6 months to buy. We'd gotten married at City Hall with 2 witnesses we'd pulled off the street. No fancy wedding, no family, just us. I told myself it was romantic, that we were building something real, something that had nothing to do with money or status or what other people expected. What an idiot I'd been. Now, lying next to my cheating husband in the darkness, I understood something I hadn't before. I'd given up everything for a man who hadn't even bothered to learn my real worth. He thought I was easy, convenient, safe. He had no idea what I actually was, and he was about to find out. The next morning, I woke up before Daniel, made coffee, scrambled eggs, set everything out on the kitchen table like I did every Wednesday morning. He stumbled out of the bedroom around 7:30, tie already loose around his neck, briefcase in hand. "Morning," he mumbled, grabbing a piece of toast. "Morning," I said. He didn't kiss me goodbye, didn't ask how I slept or what I had planned for the day, just grabbed his coffee and headed for the door. "Daniel?" He turned back, impatient. "Yeah?" "Happy anniversary." For a second, just a second, something flickered across his face. Guilt, Maybe. Or just annoyance that he'd forgotten. Right, he said. Anniversary. Sorry, babe. I've got back-to-back meetings all day. Rain check on dinner? Sure, I said. Rain check. He left. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close before I dumped the rest of the breakfast in the trash, grabbed my bag, and headed to Vincent Zhao's office. Zhao and Associates occupied the entire 42nd floor of the Whitmore Tower downtown. I hadn't been inside this building in 7 years. Security still recognized me. Ms. Whitmore, the guard at the front desk said, surprise evident in his voice. Welcome back. Thank you, Marcus. The elevator ride up felt surreal. The last time I'd been here, I'd been saying goodbye to my old life. Now I was walking back into it. Vincent was waiting for me in his office, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. He stood when I entered, same as always, perfectly pressed suit, salt and pepper hair combed back. Arya, he said, you look well. I look tired, I corrected, but thank you for seeing me on short notice. Of course, he gestured to the chair across from his desk. I've taken the liberty of setting up a meeting with Catherine Chen. She's the best divorce attorney in the state, ruthless, discreet, and very, very expensive. Perfect. He studied me for a moment. May I ask what happened? He's cheating on me. Has been for at least a few months, probably longer. I have credit card statements, hotel receipts. I heard them together last night. Vincent's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. I see. And you want to proceed with divorce? Immediately. And Vincent, I want him to get nothing. Not a dollar, not a piece of furniture, nothing. Can we do that? Given the prenup, he paused. You did sign a prenup, didn't you? I laughed. It came out bitter. No, I didn't. I see. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. That complicates things, but it's not insurmountable. California is a community property state, which means I know what it means. But Daniel doesn't know about my family, doesn't know about the trust fund. As far as he's concerned, we've both been living on our salaries for 7 years. Understanding dawned in Vincent's eyes. So the trust fund assets were never marital property because he never knew they existed. I never touched them, never used them. They've just been sitting there, growing, waiting. Clever girl. Vincent allowed himself a small smile. Your father trained you well. My father trained me to be ruthless, I said. I just haven't had a reason to use it until now. So here's what I need. A clean divorce filed and finalized before Daniel even knows what's happening. I want him served at work, in front of his colleagues. I want it humiliating, and I want to make sure he can't touch anything that's mine. Consider it done. I'll have Catherine draw up the papers today. We can have him served by Friday. Good. I stood. One more thing. I need access to my trust fund. All of it. Vincent hesitated. Arya, that's a substantial amount of money. 30 million, last I checked, plus the investment returns over the past 7 years. You're looking at close to $50 million. I know. And your father will have opinions. I'll deal with him. I met Vincent's eyes. I've spent 7 years pretending to be someone I'm not. Living small, staying quiet, being the supportive wife to a man who never appreciated any of it. I'm done pretending. Understood. He pulled out a leather folder, slid it across the desk. I'll need your signature on a few documents. Once that's done, you'll have full access to your accounts within 48 hours. I took the pen he offered and signed my name on every marked line. Arya Whitmore, not Arya Cross. I'd kept my maiden name legally, even though Daniel had wanted me to take his. One small rebellion I'd allowed myself. There's one more thing you should know, Vincent said as I finished. Your father's been asking about you, regularly. He's not well, Arya. My hand stilled on the last signature. What do you mean? His heart. The doctors say it's serious. He's been wanting to see you. Guilt twisted in my stomach, sharp and unexpected. I'd cut off all contact with my father when I married Daniel. Hadn't spoken to him in 7 years. Hadn't even known he was sick. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think too long. Vincent's voice was gentle. He's proud, but he's also your father, and he misses you. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, and left his office. The meeting with Catherine Chen was scheduled for Thursday morning. In the meantime, I had 3 days to move out of the condo without Daniel noticing. It was easier than I thought it would be. Daniel was gone by 7 every morning and didn't come home until after 9 most nights, sometimes later. I'd started noticing the pattern weeks ago, but had convinced myself it was just work stress. Now I knew better. Wednesday afternoon, while Daniel was at the office, or at another hotel room, who knew, I packed up my things. Not everything. Just enough. Clothes, jewelry, the photo albums from before our marriage, the few things that were actually mine. Everything else could stay. The apartment we'd shared, the furniture we'd picked out together, the life we'd built. None of it meant anything to me anymore. It was all just props in a performance I was done giving. I found a furnished apartment in Pacific Heights, paid 6 months' rent up front in cash, and moved my things there Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, I was sitting in Catherine Chen's office. Catherine was exactly what Vincent had promised, sharp-eyed, impeccably dressed, with a reputation for leaving her opponents bleeding in depositions. She looked over the evidence I'd brought, credit card statements, hotel receipts, photos I'd managed to take through that hotel room door before I left. "This is good," she said. "Very good. We can file for divorce on grounds of adultery, which in California doesn't technically matter for asset division, but it does matter for public opinion, and sometimes that's just as valuable." "I want this done quickly," I said, and quietly. "No media, no drama. Just efficient and final." "Understood. I'll have the papers drawn up by tomorrow. We can have him served Friday morning at his office. After that, it's just a matter of waiting out the mandatory 6-month period before the divorce is finalized." 6 months? California law. Even with no contest divorces, there's a 6-month waiting period from the date of service. But we can have everything else settled before then. Property division, asset allocation, everything. I nodded. 6 months. I could do 6 months. "One question," Catherine said, leaning forward. "What do you want from this divorce, Arya? And I don't mean financially, I mean emotionally, because in my experience, that's what actually matters." I thought about Daniel's laugh in that hotel room, the casual way he'd dismissed me, the 7 years I'd spent making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. "I want him to understand exactly what he lost," I said, "and I want to make sure he never forgets it." Catherine smiled. "Then we're going to get along just fine." Friday morning, Daniel got served with divorce papers in the lobby of his office building. I wasn't there to see it, but Catherine's assistant was. She sent me a text around 9:30, delivered. He looked shocked. Good. I spent the rest of Friday moving into my new apartment, unpacking boxes, setting up a life that had nothing to do with Daniel Cross. It felt surreal, like I was playing house in someone else's space, but it was mine, all mine. Saturday, Daniel started calling. I didn't answer. 16 missed calls by Saturday afternoon, 23 by Sunday morning. Text messages that started angry. "What the hell, Arya, you can't just leave," and evolved into desperate, "Please call me back. We need to talk about this. I can explain." There was nothing to explain. Sunday evening, he showed up at the condo. I knew because our doorman, Miguel, called to warn me. "Ms. Whitmore," he said. He'd always called me that, never Ms. Cross. "Mr. Cross is here. He's asking for your new address." I told him I don't have it. "Thank you, Miguel. You did the right thing." He seems upset. I'm sure he is. Monday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Arya." Daniel's voice raw and exhausted. "Please, just talk to me for 5 minutes. There's nothing to talk about. You can't just throw away 7 years of marriage over you sleeping with someone else? Over you lying to me for months? Over you telling her you were going to leave me?" My voice was calm, flat. "Which part exactly am I supposed to forgive, Daniel?" Silence. Then, "You don't understand. It's complicated." "It's really not." "Arya, the divorce papers are filed. My lawyer will be in touch about asset division. Don't contact me again." I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked the number. The next few weeks passed in a strange blur. I met with lawyers, signed papers, sorted through the wreckage of my marriage with the clinical detachment of a surgeon. Catherine handled everything with ruthless efficiency. By the end of the month, we'd drafted a settlement agreement, split the condo equity down the middle, divide the joint savings account, keep our individual retirement accounts separate. Daniel tried to fight it at first, got his own lawyer, demanded more money, claimed he'd sacrificed career opportunities to support me, which was laughable since I'd been the one who'd given up everything. But he didn't have much leverage. The evidence of his affair was ironclad, and more importantly, he still had no idea who I actually was. As far as Daniel knew, I was just Arya Cross, mid-level marketing manager at a tech company, living on a $70,000 salary. He had no idea about the trust fund, no idea about my family, no idea that the woman he'd cheated on could buy and sell his entire life 10 times over without blinking, and I planned to keep it that way. For now, Catherine suggested we drag things out, make him suffer through a long, expensive court battle. But I didn't want that. I wanted clean. I wanted finished. I wanted to close this chapter and move on. By mid-November, we'd reached a settlement. Daniel would get half the condo equity, about $40,000. I'd keep my car, he'd keep his. We'd split the joint account. Everything else was separate. He probably thought he was getting a fair deal. He had no idea. The divorce would be finalized in April, 6 months from the date of service. Until then, we were legally separated, living apart, building separate lives. I should have felt relieved, free. Instead, I felt hollow. It was Vincent who suggested I meet with my father. He's asking for you, he said over lunch in early December. Every week, Arya. Every single week, he asks if I've heard from you. What do you tell him? That you're well, that you're handling things, that you need time. He set down his fork, met my eyes. But the truth is, he's running out of time. The doctors say 6 months, maybe less. 6 months. The same amount of time until my divorce was final. Everything in my life seemed to be operating on the same countdown. I don't know if I'm ready to see him, I admitted. I don't think it's about being ready. It's about not having regrets. So the following Saturday, I drove to my father's estate in Presidio Heights, a sprawling mansion I'd grown up in, a place I hadn't seen in 7 years. The gates were the same. The gardens were the same. Even the butler who answered the door was the same. Carson, who'd been with the family since before I was born. Miss Ariel, he said, and his voice cracked slightly. Welcome home. Hi, Carson. Is he? In the study. He's been waiting. I walked through the house I'd grown up in, past rooms filled with art and antiques and memories I'd tried to forget. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, like time had stopped the day I walked out. My father's study was at the end of the hall, door half open. I knocked anyway. Come in. I pushed the door open. Marcus Whitmore was sitting behind his desk, the same massive oak desk he'd sat behind for as long as I could remember. But he looked different, smaller, older. Gray hair thinner, shoulders less broad, skin with that papery quality that comes with serious illness. He looked up when I entered, and for a second, neither of us spoke. Then he stood, slowly, with effort, and said, Arya, just my name. But the way he said it, like it hurt, like it healed, like it was everything. I crossed the room, stopped a few feet from his desk. 7 years of silence between us. Hi, Dad. He came around the desk, moved toward me, and before I could decide how to feel about it, he pulled me into a hug. He'd never been an affectionate man, never been one for hugs or sentiment, or saying what he actually felt, but he held me now like he'd been waiting 7 years to do it. I'm sorry, he said into my hair. I'm so sorry. And just like that, I was crying. All the anger I'd been holding on to, all the hurt and resentment and pride, it just broke apart in his arms. I'm sorry too, I whispered. We stood there for a long time, two stubborn people finally letting go of all the things we'd been too proud to say. When we finally pulled apart, he gestured to the chairs by the fireplace. We sat. Vincent tells me you're getting divorced, he said. Yeah, should be final in April. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm not. The words surprised me, but they were true. He wasn't who I thought he was, and I wasn't who he wanted me to be. We were never going to work. My father studied me. You gave up everything for him. I did. Regret it? I thought about that. Did I regret it? 7 years of my life. 7 years of living small, staying quiet, pretending to be someone I wasn't. No, I said finally. I don't regret it. I regret who I chose, but I don't regret learning what it's like to live on my own terms, even if those terms were wrong. He nodded. You're stronger than I was at your age, than I am now. Dad, I should have let you make your own choices. Should have trusted you to know what you wanted. Instead, I gave you an ultimatum, made you choose, and I lost you because of it. You didn't lose me, I said. I just needed to figure out who I was without you telling me. And did you? Figure it out? I thought about Arya Cross, the woman I'd been for 7 years. Marketing manager, devoted wife, small apartment, small life, small dreams. Then I thought about Arya Whitmore, the woman I was becoming again. I'm working on it, I said. We talked for hours that afternoon. About the company, about his illness, about all the things we'd missed in 7 years of silence. He told me about wanting me to take over Whitmore Industries someday. I told him I wasn't ready for that yet. But someday? He asked. Maybe. Someday. When I finally left, it was dark outside. Carson walked me to the door. It's good to have you back, Miss Arya, he said. It's good to be back. And I meant it. Well, December bled into January. The divorce proceeded on schedule. Daniel stopped calling, stopped texting. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved in with the woman from the hotel. Jennifer something, 24, worked in his office. I didn't care. I was busy rebuilding. I took a leave of absence from my job at the tech company, told them I needed time to handle personal matters. They were understanding. I'd been a model employee for 7 years. Instead, I started sitting in on board meetings at Whitmore Industries, learning the business from the inside, remembering all the things my father had taught me before I'd walked away. It was like putting on an old coat, familiar, comfortable, like it had been waiting for me. By February, I was attending charity galas again, the kind I'd avoided for 7 years because they reminded me too much of the life I'd left behind. Now I moved through them with ease, remembering how to network, how to charm, how to play the game. People remembered me. Arya Whitmore, Marcus's daughter, the one who'd disappeared. Where have you been? They'd ask. Finding myself, I'd say. And they'd laugh like it was a joke. It wasn't. At one of these galas, a fundraiser for children's hospitals in late February, I met Luca Moretti. I'd heard of him, of course. Everyone had. Luca Moretti, owner of half the real estate in the city, investor in dozens of tech startups, philanthropist, power broker. Dangerous. Connected. The kind of man mothers warned their daughters about. He was standing alone at the bar when I approached, watching the crowd with the detached amusement of someone who didn't need to impress anyone. You look bored, I said. He turned, looked at me. Dark eyes, sharp features, the kind of face that could sell magazines or start wars. I am bored, he said. These things are always the same. Same people, same conversations, same champagne. Then why come? Because sometimes, he said, something interesting happens, like now. It should have sounded like a line. It didn't. Arya Whitmore, I said, extending my hand. He took it. His grip was firm, warm. Luca Moretti, though you already knew that. I did. And you approached me anyway, brave or foolish? Neither. Curious? He smiled. I like curious. Can I buy you a drink? You can try, but I should warn you, I have expensive taste. So do I. We spent the rest of the evening talking. Not about business or money or any of the usual gala small talk. About books, travel, the strange performance art of high society. He was funny, sharp, saw through pretense the way I did. When the gala ended, he walked me to my car. I'd like to see you again, he said. Would you? I would. Dinner tomorrow night? I should have said no. Should have told him I was freshly separated, still technically married, definitely not ready for whatever this was. Instead, I said, yes. Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into a drive along the coast. By the time he dropped me off at my apartment at 2 a.m, I told him more about myself than I told anyone in years. You're getting divorced, he said as we sat in his car outside my building. In 2 months, officially. And before that? Before that, I was someone else. Someone smaller. Someone I'm trying not to be anymore. He nodded like he understood. Reinvention is painful. You sound like you know from experience. Everyone does. We're all just walking around in different costumes, hoping they fit better than the last ones. I looked at him, really looked at him. Who were you before? Someone angry, someone who thought power was the same thing as respect. He met my eyes. I'm still figuring out the difference. When you do, let me know. He smiled, leaned across the console, kissed me. It was soft, tentative, asking permission. I gave it. When he pulled back, he said, I should probably tell you something. What? I'm not a good man, Arya. I've done things, built things, hurt people. I'm trying to be better, but my past isn't clean. Whose is? Yours, maybe. I laughed. My past is 7 years of bad decisions and a failed marriage. Trust me, it's not clean. Then maybe we're perfectly matched. Maybe we were. Over the next few weeks, I saw Luca constantly. Dinners, lunches, late-night phone calls that lasted until dawn. He was different from Daniel in every possible way. Where Daniel had been safe and predictable, Luca was dangerous and surprising. Where Daniel had wanted me small, Luca wanted me sharp. Stop apologizing for taking up space, he told me one night over dinner. I don't. You do. Every time you state an opinion, you soften it. Every time you want something, you act like you're asking permission. Stop it. It's habit. Then break the habit. You're Arya Whitmore. Act like it. So I did. I started speaking up in board meetings at my father's company. Started pushing back when I disagreed. Started taking up space. It felt good. It felt right. By March, my father's health had deteriorated significantly. He was spending more time in the hospital than at home. I visited him every day, sometimes with Luca, sometimes alone. I like him, my father said one afternoon, watching Luca talk with his doctor in the hallway. He's not afraid of you. Should he be? Most men are. Of women like you. Women with power. Daniel was. Daniel was a fool. I didn't argue. The divorce was set to finalize on April 15th, 2 weeks away. Catherine had everything prepared, just needed the judge's signature. And then what? She asked me over coffee. Then I move on. To Luca? Maybe, probably. I don't know yet. He's good for you, she observed. You're different when you're with him, lighter. He makes me want to be the version of myself I was always supposed to be. That's called love, Arya. Maybe it was. Son. The night before the divorce was finalized, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Daniel, about the 7 years we'd had together, about all the moments that had mattered and all the ones that hadn't. I thought about the girl I'd been when I married him, naive, idealistic, convinced that love could conquer anything. And I thought about the woman I'd become, harder, sharper, less willing to compromise. I didn't regret the transformation, but I mourned it anyway. Around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I need you to know I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better. D. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late. April 15th arrived cold and clear. I put on a black suit, sharp, expensive, the kind of thing I'd never have worn as Arya Cross. Catherine met me at the courthouse. Ready? She asked. Ready. The hearing took less than 15 minutes. The judge reviewed the settlement, asked if we both agreed to the terms, signed the papers. Just like that, 7 years of marriage ended. I walked out of that courthouse a free woman. Arya Whitmore again. Legally, officially. Luca was waiting outside. He didn't ask how it went, just pulled me into his arms and held me. It's done, I said. Good. Now we can start. Start what? He pulled back, looked at me. Everything. And I believed him. That night, Luca took me to dinner at Marcello's, the same restaurant Daniel had taken his mistress to. I'd insisted, wanted to replace that memory with a better one. We were halfway through the main course when Luca said, There's something I need to tell you. My stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. It's not. Or maybe it is. I don't know how you'll take it. He set down his fork. There's a gala coming up, end-of-year celebration. Every major player in the city will be there. Politicians, investors, old money, new money, everyone who's anyone. Okay. I want you to come with me, as my partner, officially. Luca, I know it's fast. I know we've only been seeing each other for 2 months. But I don't care. I'm tired of careful. I'm tired of slow. I want you. Not eventually. Now. I should have been scared. Should have told him we needed more time. Should have been rational. Instead, I said, okay. Okay? Yes, I'll go with you. He smiled, really smiled, not the careful, controlled thing he usually did. Good, because there's something else. What? Your ex-husband will be there. My hand stilled on my wine glass. What? Daniel Cross. He's been networking, trying to rebuild after the divorce. Got himself an invitation through some tech industry connection. He'll be there. I thought about that. About seeing Daniel again for the first time since everything ended. About him seeing me with Luca. About him realizing exactly what he'd lost. Good, I said. Luca studied me. Good? Yes, good. Let him see who I actually am. Let him understand exactly what he threw away. Revenge isn't healthy, Arya. It's not revenge. It's closure. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue. The gala was scheduled for the last Saturday in April. 2 weeks away. I had 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to transform completely. 2 weeks to become someone Daniel Cross would never recognize. And I was going to enjoy every second of it. 2 weeks should have felt like enough time. It didn't. I stood in front of my closet the morning after Luca's invitation, staring at rows of clothes that suddenly felt like they belonged to someone else. Conservative blazers. Sensible heels. The kind of wardrobe a mid-level marketing manager would wear. The kind of wardrobe Arya Cross had needed. I didn't need them anymore. Problem? Luca's voice came from the doorway. He'd stayed over, had been staying over most nights lately, though neither of us had officially acknowledged it. I don't have anything to wear, I said. He laughed. Women with walk-in closets don't get to say that. I'm serious. Look at this. I gestured at the racks. This is who I was pretending to be. None of this is who I actually am. He moved behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, rested his chin on my shoulder. Then who are you actually? Good question. I'd spent 7 years being Arya Cross. Before that, I'd been Marcus Whitmore's daughter, groomed, polished, prepared for a life I'd run from. Now I was somewhere in between, trying to figure out which pieces of each version to keep. I don't know yet, I admitted. Then we'll figure it out. He kissed my neck, starting with a new wardrobe. My treat. I can pay for my own clothes. I know you can. But let me do this. Please. There was something in his voice, not pity, not condescension, just genuine desire to give me something. Okay, I said, but I'm picking everything out myself. I wouldn't have it any other way. We spent that afternoon on Union Square, going from boutique to boutique. Luca sat patiently while I tried on dress after dress, offering opinions when asked, staying quiet when not. He had surprisingly good taste, pointed out a deep emerald gown I'd walked past, a black number with a slit that went to mid-thigh, a midnight blue silk that made my skin look luminous. You have an eye for this, I said, stepping out of the dressing room in the emerald gown. I have an eye for you, he corrected. The dresses are just frame. It should have sounded cheesy. Somehow it didn't. I bought 6 dresses, 4 pairs of shoes, and enough accessories to stock a small jewelry store. Luca's credit card didn't even flinch. I'm paying you back, I said as we loaded bags into his car. With what money? You're unemployed. I have money. He raised an eyebrow. Your divorce settlement? Arya, that's not my divorce settlement, my trust fund. The words hung between us. I hadn't told him about the money yet. Hadn't told him who my family actually was. He knew I was Marcus Whitmore's daughter. That was public knowledge, easily searchable. But we'd never discussed the specifics. Never talked about the fortune I'd walked away from or the one I'd walked back into. How much money are we talking about? He asked carefully. 50 million, give or take. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, and you spent 7 years living on a tech company salary. Yes. Why? Because Daniel didn't know. And if he didn't know, then what we had was real. Or at least I thought it was real. Turns out I was just naive. Luca pulled the car over, put it in park, turned to face me. You're not naive. You're idealistic. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Naive means you don't know better. Idealistic means you believe in better. One's ignorance, the other's hope. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd appeared in my life at exactly the right moment, who saw through every defense I put up, who somehow made me want to be braver than I felt. What are we doing, Luca? What do you mean? Us. It's been 2 months. I just got divorced. You have a reputation that would make most women run. We're moving too fast. Are we? Aren't we? He reached over, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I've spent my entire life moving slowly, being careful, playing it safe in every way except business. And you know what I've learned? Safe is just another word for lonely. So no, I don't think we're moving too fast. I think we're moving exactly as fast as we need to. And if we crash? Then we crash. But at least we'll have actually lived first. It was reckless, impulsive, everything I'd spent 7 years not being. I kissed him. Right there in his car on the side of Union Square, shopping bags piled in the back seat, afternoon sun streaming through the windows. I kissed him like I meant it, like I was choosing him, like I was choosing myself. When we finally pulled apart, he was smiling. So, he said, which dress for the gala? The black one, with the slit. Bold choice. I'm done being subtle. Good. Subtle was never your color anyway. We drove back to my apartment, hauled the bags upstairs, spent the rest of the afternoon in bed. When evening came, Luca ordered Thai food, and we ate it on my couch, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in North Beach, son of a restaurant owner, learning early that money meant power and power meant survival. I told him about growing up in Presidio Heights, daughter of a titan, learning that money meant obligation and obligation meant sacrifice. We're more alike than we seem, he said. How so? We both spent our childhoods preparing for lives we didn't want. The difference is you ran from yours. I ran toward mine. Any regrets? He thought about it. Some. There are things I've done to get where I am that I'm not proud of, people I've hurt, lines I've crossed. Like what? Do you really want to know? Did I? Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to keep whatever this was light and uncomplicated. But that was the old Arya talking, the one who avoided difficult truths. Yes, I said, I want to know. So he told me about the real estate deals that weren't entirely legal, the investors he'd pushed out through intimidation, the competitors he'd buried, the money that came from sources he didn't ask too many questions about. He didn't sugarcoat it, didn't try to justify it, just laid it all out like evidence in a trial. When he finished, he said, "Still want to go to that gala with me?" I should have been shocked, should have questioned what I was getting into, should have seen red flags everywhere. Instead, I said, "Everyone has done things they're not proud of. At least you're honest about it. That doesn't make it okay, no, but it makes it human." He looked relieved, like he'd been expecting me to run. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Promise?" "Promise." We fell asleep on the couch that night, tangled together, the TV playing something neither of us was watching. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The next morning, my father called. "Can you come by the house today?" he asked. His voice sounded weaker than the last time I'd seen him. "Of course. Is everything okay?" Define okay. A pause. "Just come. There's something we need to discuss." He hung up before I could ask more questions. Luca offered to drive me, but I told him I needed to do this alone. He understood. That was one of the things I loved about him. He knew when to push and when to give space. I drove to Presidio Heights, through the gates I'd walked through hundreds of times as a child, up the long driveway lined with oak trees. The house looked the same as always, imposing, elegant, cold. It had never felt like a home, just a museum where I happened to live. Carson answered the door. "He's in the library," he said. "Should I bring tea? Please." I found my father in his favorite chair by the window, wrapped in a blanket despite the mild spring weather. He looked smaller than the last time I'd seen him, frailer. "Dad." He turned, smiled. "Arya, thank you for coming." I sat across from him. "What's going on?" "I'm dying." Just like that, blunt, direct. the way he'd always been. I know, I said. Vincent told me. No, I mean, I'm dying soon. Weeks, maybe, not months. The words hit like a physical blow. I'd known he was sick, known it was serious, but hearing it stated so plainly, weeks, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. What do the doctors say? That I should get my affairs in order, make peace, say goodbye. He shifted in his chair. So that's what I'm doing. Dad, let me finish, please. He took a breath, slow and labored. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. Built an empire. Yes. Made more money than anyone needs. But I failed at the things that actually mattered. I failed your mother. Failed you. You didn't fail me. I gave you an ultimatum. Made you choose between your family and your happiness. What kind of father does that? The kind who wanted to protect his daughter from making a mistake. And did you make a mistake? I thought about Daniel, about the 7 years I'd spent with him. Yes, but it was my mistake to make. He nodded. You're right, it was, and I robbed you of that by making you choose. So I'm sorry, for that, for all of it. I'm sorry too, for staying away so long, for being stubborn. You're my daughter. Stubborn is genetic. We both smiled. Carson brought tea. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Finally, my father said, I'm leaving you the company. Dad, let me finish. I'm leaving you the company. All of it. Whitmore Industries, the real estate holdings, the investment portfolio, everything. Vincent has the paperwork drawn up. When I die, it all goes to you. That's not, I don't, you're ready for it. More ready than you think. You've been sitting in on board meetings, learning the business. You have your mother's instincts and my drive. You'll be better at this than I ever was. What if I don't want it? Then you don't want it, and you can sell it all, give it away, burn it for all I care. But I'm giving you the choice, the one I didn't give you before. I felt tears building. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. That's all I ask. I'll think about it. He reached over, took my hand. His skin was paper thin, spotted with age. There's one more thing. This gala you're attending with Luca Moretti. How did you... I still have sources, and I want you to know I approve. You approve? He's dangerous, complicated, has a past that would concern most fathers. But he looks at you the way a man should look at a woman he loves. Your ex-husband never did that. You never met Daniel. Didn't need to. Could tell from the way you changed when you were with him. Got smaller, quieter, like you were trying to take up less space. With Moretti, you take up more. He squeezed my hand. Take up as much space as you want, Arya. The world is big enough. I stayed with him for hours that day. We talked about everything. My mother, who died when I was 10, the company, his regrets, my plans. It felt like saying goodbye, even though neither of us used those words. When I finally left, he walked me to the door. Slow, unsteady, but insisted on doing it himself. I love you, he said, in case I haven't said it enough. I love you too, Dad. I cried the entire drive back to my apartment. Luca was there when I arrived, sitting on my couch, with takeout containers spread across the coffee table. Figured you'd be hungry, he said. I didn't answer, just walked over and collapsed into his arms. He held me while I cried. Didn't ask questions, didn't offer platitudes, just held me. When I finally stopped crying, he said, "Want to talk about it?" He's dying. Weeks, not months. I'm sorry. He's leaving me everything, the company, all of it. What are you going to do? I don't know, I haven't processed it yet. We ate dinner in silence. Then Luca said, "Whatever you decide, I'm here. You know that, right?" I know. I mean it. If you want to take over the company, I support you. If you want to walk away from all of it, I support that too. This is your choice. What would you do if you were me? He thought about it. I'd ask myself what I actually want, not what I think I should want, not what makes sense or what other people expect, just what I actually want. And then I'd do that. What if I don't know what I want? Then you have time to figure it out. Simple, direct, not trying to fix it or solve it or make it better, just accepting where I was. That's when I knew I was in love with him. The realization should have scared me. Should have felt too soon, too fast, too much. Instead, it felt inevitable. Like I'd been falling this whole time and only just now hit the ground. "I think I'm in love with you," I said. He looked up from his noodles. "You think?" "No, I am. I'm in love with you." He set down his fork. "Good." "Good?" "I've been in love with you since the night we met. Was starting to worry you'd never catch up." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You could have said something and ruined the mystery? Never." He pulled me closer. "Besides, some things are worth waiting for." We spent the rest of the night talking about the future, about what the gala would be like, about seeing Daniel again, about what I wanted to say to him if I got the chance. "Nothing," I decided. "I don't want to say anything to him." "Really?" "Really. Anything I say gives him power, makes it seem like he still matters. The best revenge is indifference." "You've been thinking about this." "For 2 weeks straight, and I've realized something. I don't want revenge. I just want him to see me, really see me, and understand that he never did before." "He will," Luca said. "Trust me. When you walk into that gala, he won't be able to look away." The days before the gala passed in a blur of preparation. I had the black dress altered to fit perfectly, got my hair done, practiced walking in the ridiculously high heels I'd bought, felt like I was getting ready for battle. Which, in a way, I was. 3 days before the gala, Catherine called. "I have news," she said. "About Daniel. You'll want to hear this. Trust me." I met her for coffee that afternoon. She brought a folder. "My investigator did some digging," she said, "about Daniel's finances. Turns out the affair wasn't his only secret." She slid papers across the table. Bank statements, transfer records, investment accounts. "What am I looking at?" "Your ex-husband has been hiding money. A lot of money. Offshore accounts, shell companies. He's been siphoning funds from his company for years." I scanned the documents. Numbers that didn't make sense on a mid-level sales manager's salary. "How much are we talking?" "Close to $2 million. I sat back. He told me we couldn't afford a bigger apartment, that we needed to save, that money was tight. He lied. About a lot of things, apparently. Catherine tapped the folder. "Here's the interesting part. His company doesn't know. Nobody knows except him and whoever's been helping him hide it." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know what kind of man you were married to. And because if you wanted to make things difficult for him, really difficult, this information would do it." I looked at the papers again. $2 million. Hidden. Stolen. While I'd been clipping coupons and buying generic brand groceries, thinking we were building a future together. What would happen if this came out? Fraud charges, prison time, end of his career, complete destruction of everything he's built since the divorce. It was tempting, so tempting, to take this information and burn his entire life to the ground, but something stopped me. "No," I said. "No? I don't want this. Don't want to be the person who destroys him out of spite. Arya, I mean it. Keep the file. Keep the information. But I don't want anything to do with it. If his company finds out, if the authorities investigate, that's on him. But it won't be because of me." Catherine looked disappointed. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. I've spent enough energy on Daniel Cross. I'm done." I left the coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in weeks. I'd been given the perfect weapon and chosen not to use it. That felt like power. Real power. Not the kind that came from destroying someone else, but the kind that came from choosing to be better. When I told Luca about it that night, he said, "You're a better person than I am." "How so?" "I'd have used it, without hesitation." "Would you?" He thought about it. "Probably. I told you, I'm not a good man." "You're a complicated man. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Good and bad are simple. Most people are complicated." He kissed my forehead. "When did you get so wise?" "About 10 minutes ago. Still figuring it out as I go. The night before the gala, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what would happen when Daniel saw me, what he'd say, what he'd think. If he'd realize what he'd lost, or if he'd just see another woman he'd moved on from. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen. Luca found me there, sitting at the counter in the dark. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Too much in my head." He made tea. We sat together in comfortable silence. Finally, he said, "You know you don't have to go tomorrow." "What?" "To the gala. If it's too much, if you're not ready, we can skip it. Go somewhere else, just the two of us." "You don't want to go?" "I want you to be comfortable. Everything else is secondary." I thought about it, about hiding, about avoiding Daniel and the confrontation, and all the complicated feelings that came with seeing him again. Then I thought about the woman I'd been becoming, the one who took up space, who didn't apologize for existing, who chose courage over comfort. "I want to go," I said. "I need to go, for me." "Okay, then we'll go." "And Luca?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for giving me the choice." "Always." We went back to bed. This time, I slept. The day of the gala arrived clear and warm. I spent the morning at the spa, facial, massage, hair, makeup. The works. Luca had insisted on paying for all of it, and for once, I didn't argue. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was already evening. The gala started at 8. I had 2 hours to get ready. I took my time, put on the black dress, silk, floor length, with a slit that went dangerously high. The shoes, 6-inch Louboutins that made my legs look endless. The jewelry, diamond earrings from my mother's collection, a simple platinum bracelet Luca had given me last week. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. This wasn't Aria Cross, the quiet marketing manager who made herself small. This wasn't even the Aria Whitmore I'd been before my marriage, groomed and polished but fundamentally uncertain. This was someone new, someone I was still becoming, someone who wore power like it fit. Luca arrived at 7:30 wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's cars. He stopped dead when he saw me. "Jesus," he breathed. "Too much?" "Not even close." He crossed the room, kissed me slowly. "You're going to stop traffic." "That's the plan." We took his car, a black Mercedes that drove like a dream. The gala was being held at the Fairmont, one of the most exclusive hotels in the city. By the time we pulled up, there was already a line of luxury cars waiting for valet parking. "Ready?" Luca asked. I took a breath. "Ready." He came around, opened my door, offered his hand. I took it, stepped out. And just like that, we were on. Cameras flashed. People turned to look. I heard whispers as we walked past. "Is that Aria Whitmore?" I thought she disappeared. "Who's she with?" "Luca Moretti." "No way." Luca kept his hand on the small of my back, steady and grounding. We walked through the lobby, up the grand staircase, into the ballroom. It was exactly as I remembered from years of attending these things. Crystal chandeliers, tables set with china so expensive you were afraid to use it. People in designer everything, air kissing and fake laughing and networking like their lives depended on it. I'd hated these events before, found them shallow and performative. Now I saw them differently. This wasn't just a party. It was theater, performance, a carefully choreographed dance where everyone knew the steps. And I'd been trained for this since childhood. "Aria Whitmore." A voice behind me. I turned. Margaret Chen. Old family friend. Her husband ran a venture capital firm. "Margaret, good to see you." "Darling, we've been wondering where you've been hiding. 7 years is a long time." "I've been finding myself." "And have you? Found yourself?" I smiled. "I'm getting there." "Well?" She looked at Luca. "You certainly found something." "Margaret, this is Luca Moretti." "Luca, Margaret Chen." They shook hands. Margaret's eyes were calculating. "Moretti," she said. "I've heard of you. Real estate, isn't it?" "Among other things." "How nice." She turned back to me. "Your father must be pleased to have you back." "He is." "Give him my regards. Tell him we're thinking of him." She drifted away, already hunting her next conversation. "That was," Luca started, "standard. You'll get used to it." We made our way through the room, stopping to talk with people I'd known my entire life. Everyone wanted to know where I'd been, what I'd been doing, why I'd stayed away so long. I kept my answers vague, smiled a lot, let Luca do most of the talking. He was good at this. Natural, could charm anyone within 30 seconds of meeting them. We were halfway through our second glass of champagne when I saw him. Daniel. He was standing near the bar, talking with a blonde woman I didn't recognize. Jennifer, probably. He looked good. Better than he had any right to. New suit, new haircut, new confidence. He hadn't seen me yet. Luca followed my gaze. That him? Yeah. Want to leave? No, I want him to see me. Then let's give him something to see. Luca pulled me onto the dance floor. The band was playing something slow, jazzy. He held me close, closer than was strictly proper for a formal event. His hand on my waist, my hand on his shoulder, moving together like we'd done this 1,000 times. You're a good dancer, I said. My mother insisted on lessons, hated every second of it. And now? Now I'm grateful. We turned, and that's when Daniel saw us. I watched his face change. Confusion first, like he couldn't quite place me. Then recognition. Then something that looked like shock. He said something to Jennifer, started walking toward us. He's coming over, Luca murmured. I know. What do you want to do? Keep dancing. So we did. Daniel reached the edge of the dance floor, stopped, waited. We ignored him. The song ended. Another started. We kept dancing. Finally, Daniel stepped onto the floor. Arya. I turned like I'd just noticed him. Daniel, what a surprise. He looked between me and Luca, clearly trying to process. I didn't know you'd be here. Last-minute invitation. You remember how these things are. Yeah, of course. He was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You look different. Do I? Yeah, really different. Luca extended his hand. Luca Moretti. And you are? Daniel Cross. Arya's, we used to be. We were married. Ah, the ex-husband. Luca's smile didn't reach his eyes. I've heard about you. Daniel flinched. Nothing good, I'm guessing. You'd guessed correctly. An uncomfortable silence. Jennifer appeared at Daniel's elbow, looking uncertain. Danny? She said. Is everything okay? Danny. I'd almost forgotten she called him that. Fine, Daniel said. His eyes never left me. Jennifer, this is Arya. Arya, Jennifer. Nice to meet you, I said pleasantly. Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear. So, Daniel said, how have you been? Excellent, actually. You? Good. Great. It's been good. He was lying. I could tell from the way he kept shifting his weight, the way his hand kept moving to his tie like he wanted to loosen it. That's wonderful, I said. I'm so glad you're happy. The words were genuine. And that surprised me more than anything. I actually meant it. I didn't want him back. Didn't want to hurt him. Just wanted him to be okay. Somewhere far away from me. You're with him? Daniel asked, looking at Luca. I am. How long? Does it matter? He looked like I'd slapped him. I guess not. The song ended. Luca said, Excuse us, we should find our table. He steered me away before Daniel could respond. You okay? He asked when we were out of earshot. Yeah, I'm okay. And I was. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. We found our table, front and center, next to the Chens and the Williamses and other old money families I'd grown up with. Luca fit in perfectly, talked business with the men, charmed the women, made everyone laugh. I watched him work the room and realized something. He wasn't performing. This was just him. Comfortable in his own skin, not trying to be anything other than what he was. I wanted that certainty, that ease. Dinner was served. Speeches were made. Somewhere during the third course, my phone buzzed, a text from my father's doctor. I excused myself, stepped out into the hallway, called back immediately. Miss Whitmore, the doctor said. I'm sorry to bother you, but your father asked me to call. He's taken a turn. We don't think it will be much longer. The world tilted. How long? Hours, maybe. He's asking for you. I'm on my way. I hung up, Stood there in the hallway outside the ballroom, trying to breathe. Luca found me 60 seconds later. What's wrong? My father, I need to go. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I'm driving you. We left without saying goodbye to anyone. Luca handed his keys to the valet and we were on the road within minutes. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Luca drove fast but careful, one hand on the wheel, one hand holding mine. He's going to be okay, he said. You don't know that. You're right, I don't. But I know he's strong, and I know he's been waiting to see you. We made it to the hospital in 20 minutes. I ran through the lobby, still in my gala dress and heels, Luca right behind me. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like hours. When we finally reached my father's room, Vincent was already there. So was Carson. They both looked up when we entered. Arya, Vincent said, thank you for coming. I went straight to the bed. My father looked so small, so fragile. Nothing like the titan who'd built an empire. But he smiled when he saw me. There's my girl, he whispered. I took his hand. I'm here, Dad. Good. That's good. His breathing was labored. You look beautiful, like your mother. Don't talk, just rest. No time for rest. He squeezed my hand weakly. Need to tell you something. What? I'm proud of you, so proud. You became everything I hoped you'd be, everything she would have wanted. Tears streamed down my face. Dad, let me finish, please. Another labored breath. Take care of the company. Or don't. Your choice. But either way, know that I love you. Always have. Always will. I love you too. He smiled, closed his eyes, and just like that, he was gone. The monitor flatlined. Nurses rushed in. But I knew, could feel it in the sudden emptiness of the room. My father was dead, and I was alone. Luca didn't leave my side. Not while the nurses cleared the room, not while the doctor came in to officially pronounce the time of death, not while Vincent made phone calls to notify board members and lawyers, and all the people who needed to know that Marcus Whitmore was gone. I sat in that hospital chair, still wearing my gala dress, and felt nothing. Not sadness, not grief. Just a strange, hollow emptiness where something should have been. Arya. Vincent's voice pulled me back. We need to discuss arrangements. Not now, Luca said before I could respond. His tone left no room for argument. There are decisions that need to be made, and they can wait until tomorrow. She just lost her father. Vincent looked like he wanted to argue, then thought better of it. Of course. I'll call you in the morning. He left. Carson followed, but not before squeezing my shoulder gently. I'm so sorry, Miss Arya. Then it was just me and Luca in that hospital room with my father's body. Do you want to stay? Luca asked quietly. No, I want to go home. Okay, let's go home. He drove me back to my apartment, helped me out of the car, up the stairs, through the door. I moved like a robot, mechanical and distant. Inside, he unzipped my dress, helped me step out of it, found one of his shirts for me to wear, guided me to bed. I'm going to make you some tea, he said. I don't want tea. I know. I'm making it anyway. He left. I heard him moving around in the kitchen, the sound of the kettle, cabinet doors opening and closing. Normal sounds, like the world hadn't just shifted on its axis. When he came back, he was carrying 2 mugs. He handed me one, sat down beside me. You don't have to drink it, he said. Just hold it. Sometimes that helps. I held the mug, let the warmth seep into my hands. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I said, I never told him I'd take over the company. He knew you would. How? I didn't even know. Because he knew you. And he knew that when it mattered, you'd do the right thing. What if I don't want to? What if the right thing is walking away? Then you walk away. But somehow I don't think you will. I looked at him. Why not? Because you've spent the last 2 months learning that business, sitting in on meetings, asking questions. If you were going to walk away, you would have done it already. He was right. I hadn't admitted it to myself yet, but he was right. I did want the company, wanted to take what my father built and make it mine, wanted to prove I could do it, wanted to honor his legacy by building on it. I'm terrified, I said. Good. If you weren't, you'd be an idiot. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be true. He set down his mug, turned to face me. You're about to take over a multi-billion-dollar company. You should be terrified, but you're also brilliant and capable and more ready for this than you think. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you walked away from a fortune to marry someone you loved. I know you spent 7 years living a lie because you believed in something. I know that when you found out your husband was cheating, you didn't scream or break things. You planned your exit with surgical precision. I know you're strong enough to do this. I wanted to believe him, wanted to feel that certainty he had in me. Instead, I just felt tired. I need to sleep, I said. Okay, I'll be right here. He was. All night. I'd wake up at random intervals and he'd be there, sometimes dozing, sometimes just watching over me. Like he was afraid if he looked away, I'd disappear. Morning came too soon. Sunlight through the windows, city sounds from outside, the smell of coffee from the kitchen. Normal things. But nothing felt normal. My phone was buzzing. Had been for a while, I realized. Texts, calls, voicemails. I ignored all of it. Luca appeared in the doorway with coffee. Vincent called. He's coming over at 10 to discuss arrangements. I told him that was fine. Was that okay? Yeah, fine. How are you feeling? Like I'm underwater and everyone else is on the surface. That's grief. It gets easier. Does it? Eventually. Not today. Probably not tomorrow, but eventually. I drank the coffee, got dressed, put on armor in the form of a black pantsuit and minimal makeup. By the time Vincent arrived, I looked composed, professional, in control. I felt like I was falling apart. Vincent brought papers, so many papers, funeral arrangements to approve, obituary to review, will to execute, board members to notify, press releases to draft. We sat at my dining table and went through it all methodically. The funeral's scheduled for Friday, Vincent said. At Grace Cathedral. We're expecting over 500 people, sir. 500 people who'd known my father in various capacities. Business associates, competitors, society figures, politicians. People who'd respected him, feared him, wanted something from him. People who hadn't seen him as a father. Just as Marcus Whitmore, the Titan. That's fine, I said. The board wants to meet with you next week, Tuesday, if you're available. I'll make myself available. They'll have questions about succession, about your plans for the company, about whether you're ready. And what should I tell them? Vincent looked at me over his reading glasses. Tell them you're Marcus Whitmore's daughter. That should be enough. But would it be? I'd been gone for 7 years, had no experience running a company this size. Didn't know half the board members personally. Why should they trust me? They're going to fight this, I said. Some of them, at least. Probably. Harold Chen especially. He's been gunning for CEO for years, but your father's will is ironclad. The company goes to you. They can accept it or resign. What if they all resign? They won't. Too much money at stake. Vincent started gathering his papers. You're going to be fine, Arya. Your father believed in you. So do I. After he left, I sat at that table for a long time, staring at nothing. Luca came over, pulled up a chair. Talk to me. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you do. You're just scared. There's a difference. What if I fail? Then you fail. And you pick yourself up and try again. That's how this works. My father never failed. Your father failed all the time. He just didn't broadcast it. Every successful person has failed. The difference is, they kept going. I looked at him. This man who'd appeared in my life at exactly the right moment, who somehow always knew what to say. How are you so calm about all this? I'm not calm. I'm just good at pretending. Years of practice. Teach me. Can't. You have to learn it yourself, but I can be here while you do. Promise? Promise. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls and meetings and decisions I wasn't ready to make. Flowers to approve, seating charts to review, eulogies to edit. Everyone wanted something from me. Answers, direction, reassurance. I had none of it to give. The funeral was Friday afternoon. I wore black Chanel, one of my mother's dresses that I'd found in storage at the house. It fit perfectly, like she'd known someday I'd need it. Luca picked me up at noon. He was wearing a black suit, simple and elegant. took my hand when I got in the car. "Ready?" he asked. "No, but let's go anyway." Grace Cathedral was already packed when we arrived. Cameras outside, reporters trying to get quotes, society figures air-kissing and networking even at a funeral. It was exactly what my father would have expected. Exactly what he would have wanted. I hated it. We made our way inside. The casket was at the front, closed, covered in white roses. My father had planned this himself, apparently. Had very specific instructions about everything. Control until the end. That was Marcus Whitmore. Vincent met me at the entrance. "The family section is up front. You'll sit with the board members." "What family? It's just me." "You're enough." The service was long. Speaker after speaker, talking about my father's business acumen, his philanthropy, his legacy. Nobody mentioned that he'd been a difficult man, that he'd given ultimatums, that he'd valued success over relationships. Nobody mentioned the real Marcus Whitmore, just the public version. When it was my turn to speak, I walked to the podium with no idea what I was going to say. I looked out at the sea of faces. 500 people, maybe more. All of them waiting to hear the grieving daughter say something profound. "My father was complicated," I started. "He built an empire, made more money than most people can imagine, changed industries, shaped policy, left a mark on this city that will last generations." I paused, looked at the casket. But to me, he was just Dad. The man who taught me to play chess, who took me to the office on Saturdays and let me sit in the big chair, who had impossibly high standards and somehow made me want to meet them. My voice cracked. We had our differences. Spent 7 years not speaking because we were both too stubborn to bend. But in the end, we found our way back to each other. And I'm grateful for that. Grateful I got to tell him I loved him. Grateful he got to tell me he was proud. I could see people in the audience shifting. This wasn't the polished corporate tribute they'd expected. My father taught me that success isn't just about money or power. It's about building something that lasts, about making choices you can live with, about knowing when to fight and when to let go. I looked out at the crowd again. I don't know if I'll be able to fill his shoes. Honestly, I'm terrified to try. But I know he believed I could, and that's going to have to be enough. I walked back to my seat. Luca squeezed my hand. The rest of the service passed in a haze. More speakers, more tributes, more carefully crafted narratives about who Marcus Whitmore had been. Afterward, there was a reception at the house. Hundreds of people milling around eating catered food, drinking expensive wine, talking about business deals and stock prices and who was going to take over what. I wanted to scream at all of them. Tell them this was supposed to be about mourning, not networking. Instead, I smiled and shook hands and accepted condolences with grace. "Aria, darling," Margaret Chen again, appearing at my elbow with a glass of white wine. "That was a lovely speech." "Thank you. Your father would have been proud." "I hope so." "So," she lowered her voice conspiratorially, "what are your plans for the company?" Of course. That's what this was really about. Everyone wanted to know if the inexperienced daughter was going to crash the ship or sail it successfully. "I'm still figuring that out," I said carefully. "Well, if you need any advice, Harold has years of experience. He'd be happy to help guide you through the transition." Translation. Harold wants to take over and is using his wife to plant the seed. "I'll keep that in mind," I said, with no intention of doing so. She drifted away. Others approached with similar offers. Help. Guidance. Support. All of them really meaning, let us take control while you're vulnerable. I was exhausted by the time the last guest left, collapsed on the couch in my father's study, my study now, I supposed, and closed my eyes. "They're circling," Luca said from the doorway. I noticed. "You going to let them?" "Not a chance." He smiled. "Good, because I'd hate to watch you give up everything you've worked for." "I haven't worked for this. My father did." "No, he built the foundation. You're going to build the rest. That's work." I opened my eyes, looked at him. "You have a lot of faith in me." "Someone has to. Might as well be me." Over the next week, I threw myself into learning everything I could about Whitmore Industries. Spent 12-hour days at the office, reading reports, attending meetings, asking questions until I understood every division, every investment, every deal in progress. The board meeting was Tuesday. I showed up 30 minutes early, wearing the same power suit my mother used to wear in old photos. Armor. The boardroom was exactly as I remembered from childhood visits. Long mahogany table, leather chairs, walls lined with portraits of previous CEOs. All men, all white, all looking vaguely disapproving. I was about to change that. The board members filed in at exactly 9 o'clock. 12 of them, all men except for 2 women who looked like they'd fought hard to be in that room. They took their seats, studying me with various expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. Harold Chen sat at the far end. Distinguished, silver-haired, the very picture of a corporate titan. He'd been with the company for 20 years. Wanted the CEO position desperately. He wasn't going to get it. "Thank you all for coming," I started. "I know this transition has been sudden. My father's death was—" I paused. Unexpected, despite his illness. But he left very clear instructions about succession. "With all due respect, Ms. Whitmore," Harold said, "clear instructions don't necessarily mean the right instructions. You've been absent from this company for 7 years. You have no executive experience. The board has legitimate concerns about your ability to lead." "I'm sure you do. What would you suggest instead?" "An interim CEO. Someone with experience. Someone who knows the business intimately." He didn't quite say me, but might as well have. My father didn't want an interim CEO. He wanted me. Your father was dying. Perhaps his judgment was careful. My voice went cold. Finish that sentence very carefully. Harold sat back, reassessing. I looked around the table. I understand your concerns. I do. I've been gone. I have no executive experience. On paper, I'm a terrible choice. Someone shifted uncomfortably. But here's what I do have. I have my father's strategic mind. I have a degree in economics from Stanford. I have 7 years of experience in tech marketing, which means I understand innovation and disruption. And most importantly, I have something none of you have, a controlling interest in this company. That landed like a bomb. My father left me 51% of the shares, which means that while I value your input and expertise, I don't actually need your approval. I'm going to be CEO. The question is whether you want to be part of what comes next or not. Silence. Then one of the women, Patricia something, I'd have to learn all their names, said, "What is coming next? Change. My father built this company on traditional industries. Real estate, manufacturing, conventional investments, all solid, all profitable, all dying." That's, Harold started. True. You know it's true. We're losing ground to tech companies, to startups, to businesses that move faster and adapt quicker. My father knew it. That's why he wanted me. Because I understand the future in a way his generation doesn't. I pulled out a folder, slid copies across the table. This is my 90-day plan. We're going to diversify into tech investments, partner with startups, create an innovation arm that can move independently of the main company. We're going to maintain our traditional holdings, but use the profits to fund the future. They were reading now, some with interest, some with skepticism. This is aggressive, Patricia said. It has to be. We're behind. It's also risky, Harold added. So was every move my father ever made. Risk is how you build empires. Or lose them, he countered. Then I guess we'll find out which kind of leader I am. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Questions, challenges, pushback. But by the end, even Harold had to admit the plan had merit. "We'll need to see results," he said as everyone filed out. "You will." When the room cleared, Vincent appeared. That was masterful. That was terrifying. Same thing, usually. He handed me another folder. "These are the contracts that need your signature. You're officially CEO as of this morning." I looked at the papers. My father's signature had been on documents like these for 40 years. Now, it would be mine. I signed. Just like that, I was the head of a multi-billion-dollar company. That night, Luca took me to dinner at a quiet restaurant far from downtown. No cameras, no reporters, no one who'd recognize us. "How does it feel?" he asked over wine. "Like I'm wearing someone else's skin." "You'll grow into it." "What if I don't?" "Then you'll create a new skin that fits better. That's what you do." I smiled, despite myself. "When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just weren't ready to listen. We talked about the future, about what the company could become, about the risks and opportunities, about whether I was making a massive mistake. You're not, Luca said, making a mistake. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. How do you know? Because I've watched you these past few months, watched you go from broken to whole, from hiding to stepping forward. You're not the same person you were when I met you. Is that good? It's everything. We went back to his place that night, a penthouse in North Beach with views of the entire city. I'd been here before, but tonight it felt different, like I was seeing it with new eyes. Move in with me, he said suddenly. I turned. What? Move in. Your apartment is fine, but it's temporary. This, he gestured around, this could be home, for both of us. Luca, we've only been together for 3 months. I know. And I don't care. I love you. I want you here. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a life with you. It was too fast, too soon, too everything. I said yes anyway. Because he was right. I wasn't the same person I'd been. That person would have hesitated, weighed pros and cons, been careful. This person chose what she wanted and didn't apologize. Yes, I said again. I'll move in. He kissed me like I'd just given him the world. Maybe I had. The next few weeks were chaos. Moving my things to Luca's place, settling into the CEO role, making decisions that affected thousands of people, learning to navigate corporate politics I'd forgotten existed. But it was good chaos. Productive chaos. I was building something, not just inheriting it, actually building it. The first major decision I made was acquiring a tech startup called Nexus AI. They were developing machine learning algorithms for financial modeling, exactly the kind of innovation we needed. Harold fought me on it, said it was too expensive, too risky, too unproven. I approved it anyway. 3 months later, Nexus AI's algorithms were being used by every major bank in the country. Our investment tripled in value. Harold stopped questioning my decisions after that. By summer, Whitmore Industries was unrecognizable from what it had been under my father. We'd acquired 4 more startups, partnered with 3 tech giants, and launched an innovation fund that was attracting the best minds in Silicon Valley. The old guard on the board was unhappy, but the shareholders loved it. Stock prices were up 40%. I was proving myself every single day, and it felt incredible. Luca was there through all of it, supporting, advising, occasionally telling me when I was being too aggressive or not aggressive enough. We'd settled into a rhythm, mornings together, days apart building our respective empires, evenings together comparing notes. It was the kind of partnership I'd wanted with Daniel but never had. Equal, balanced, 2 people making each other better. In August, Luca proposed. We were at his family's restaurant in North Beach, the one his father had opened 40 years ago, the one Luca still owned but rarely visited. He'd taken me there for dinner, just the 2 of us, and halfway through the second course, he got down on one knee. I know it's fast, he said. I know we've only been together 6 months. I know you just got divorced and probably swore off marriage forever. But I also know that I love you, that I want to spend the rest of my life with you, that every day with you is better than any day without you. So Aria Whitmore, will you marry me? The ring was stunning, emerald-cut diamond platinum band, simple and elegant and perfect. I should have said we needed more time, should have been practical. Yes, I said instead, because practical was overrated, and life was too short to waste time being careful. We got married in September. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Nothing like my first wedding at City Hall, but nothing like the society wedding my father would have wanted either. Something in between. Something that was just ours. I wore white, a simple silk dress that cost more than my first car. Luca wore black. We said our vows on the rooftop of his building, overlooking the city we both loved. When the officiant pronounced us married, Luca kissed me like we had all the time in the world. And for the first time in my life, I felt like maybe we did. The reception was at the house in Presidio Heights. The one I'd grown up in. The one that was mine now. We'd invited 100 people. Tech entrepreneurs, board members, old family friends, Luca's business associates. A strange mix of old money and new money, tradition and innovation. It shouldn't have worked. It did. Halfway through the reception, I saw him. Daniel. He was standing near the bar, looking uncomfortable in a suit that didn't quite fit. Jennifer wasn't with him. He was alone. I hadn't invited him, hadn't even thought to. "What is he doing here?" Luca asked, following my gaze. I have no idea. Daniel saw me looking, started walking over. I could have turned away, could have had security escort him out. Instead, I waited. "Aria Shin," he said when he reached us. "Congratulations." "Thank you. How did you get in?" He looked embarrassed. "I crashed. I know I shouldn't have, but I needed to see you, to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about." "Please, just 5 minutes." Luca's hand tightened on my waist. I could feel him ready to intervene. "It's okay," I told him. "I'll handle this." "You sure?" "I'm sure." Luca nodded, stepped away to give us space, but stayed close enough to intervene if needed. I turned to Daniel. "You have 5 minutes." "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "For everything. For cheating. For lying. For not seeing who you really were. I was an idiot." "Yes, you were." I know. And I don't expect you to forgive me. I saw your picture in the paper. Saw what you've become. The company, the success, all of it. And I realized I never knew you at all. No, you didn't. You could have told me about your family, about the money. Would it have made a difference? He thought about it. Probably not. I still would have cheated. I was selfish and stupid and... He stopped. "I just wanted you to know that I see it now, see what I lost, and I'm sorry." I studied him. This man I'd loved. This man I'd given up everything for. He looked smaller than I remembered, less significant. "I appreciate the apology," I said. "I do. But it doesn't change anything. You made your choices, I made mine, and we both have to live with them. Are you happy with him?" I glanced at Luca, who was watching us with careful attention. "Yes," I said. "I am. Happier than I've ever been." Daniel nodded. "Good. You deserve that. I hope he treats you better than I did." "He does, because he actually sees me, the real me, not some version he wants me to be. I'm glad." He turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I think your father would have been proud of what you've built, who you've become." It was a kind thing to say. Probably the kindest thing Daniel had ever said to me. "Thank you," I said. He left after that, disappeared into the crowd and then out the door. I never saw him again. Luca came back over. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." "Want to talk about it?" "No, I want to dance with my husband." He smiled. "I like the sound of that, husband." "Get used to it. You're stuck with me now." "Promise?" "Promise." We danced. And for the first time since my father died, since my marriage ended, since everything fell apart and came back together, I felt whole. Not because someone else completed me, but because I'd completed myself. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of champagne and laughter and congratulations. By the time the last guest left, it was after midnight. Luca and I stood on the terrace, looking out over the city. "Ready for what comes next?" he asked. "I think so. What has come next?" "Everything. The company, us, whatever we want to build." I leaned into him. "That sounds perfect." "It will be. I promise." And somehow, I believed him. Because we weren't just building a marriage or running companies or playing at being powerful. We were actually doing it, actually living, actually choosing to be brave instead of safe. That night, lying in bed in the house I'd grown up in, with my husband beside me, I thought about everything that had brought me here. The betrayal, the divorce, the grief, the transformation. All of it had been necessary. All of it had shaped me into someone stronger, someone braver, someone more real. I'd lost my first marriage, lost my father, lost the simple life I'd tried to build, but I'd gained myself, and that was worth everything. 3 months into marriage, I learned that being CEO and being a wife weren't mutually exclusive. They were just exhausting when combined. I was sitting in my office at Whitmore Industries on a Tuesday morning in December, reviewing acquisition proposals, when my assistant knocked. "Mrs. Moretti, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but says it's urgent." I didn't correct her on the name. I'd kept Whitmore professionally, but taken Moretti personally. It was complicated, but so was everything else in my life. "Who is it?" "Jennifer Cross." The name hit me like cold water. Daniel's Jennifer, the woman he'd left me for. "Send her in." My assistant looked uncertain. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Jennifer walked in looking nothing like the confident woman I'd glimpsed at the gala. She was thinner, pale, wearing jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. "I almost didn't. Sit down." She sat, perched on the edge of the chair like she might bolt at any moment. "What do you want, Jennifer?" "I need help, and I know I have no right to ask, but I didn't know where else to go." "Help with what?" She took a breath. "Daniel's been arrested, fraud charges. His company discovered he'd been embezzling funds for years. They're pressing charges. He's looking at serious prison time." I remembered Catherine's folder, the evidence she'd shown me months ago, the $2 million Daniel had hidden. "And you're telling me this because I'm pregnant. 3 months. And I have no money, no job, nowhere to go. He told me he'd take care of everything, and now—" Her voice broke. "Now he's going to prison, and I'm alone, and I don't know what to do." I should have felt satisfaction, should have enjoyed watching Daniel's life implode exactly the way Catherine had predicted. Instead, I just felt tired. "Why come to me?" "Because you're the only person I could think of who might understand what it's like to be betrayed by him. And because—" She wiped her eyes. "Because I heard you're a good person, despite everything." "I'm not a good person. I'm just practical. Please, I'm not asking for money, just advice. A reference, maybe. Something to help me get back on my feet." I studied her. She was younger than I'd thought, mid-20s at most. Probably believed every lie Daniel told her. "Did you know he was married when you started sleeping with him?" She flinched. "Yes, I knew. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't change anything, but I am sorry. I thought—" She stopped. "It doesn't matter what I thought. I was wrong." At least she owned it. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through contacts, found what I was looking for. There's a women's shelter downtown. They help single mothers get on their feet, job training, housing assistance, childcare. I donate to them annually. I wrote down the address, slid it across the desk. "Tell them I sent you. They'll take care of you." Jennifer stared at the paper like it was a lifeline. "Thank you. I don't thank you." "Don't thank me. Just do better, for your kid's sake." She nodded, stood, turned to leave. "Jennifer?" She stopped. "He's not worth it, Daniel. Whatever you thought you had with him, it wasn't real. Learn from that and move on." "Did you? Move on?" "Yes, and you will too." After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences and the strange way life circles back on itself. I called Catherine. "I need to know something," I said when she answered. "That evidence you showed me about Daniel's fraud, did you report it?" "No, you said you didn't want it used." "I didn't. But did someone else find it?" A pause. "I may have left copies where his company's auditors would find them during their annual review. Anonymously, of course." "Catherine, you said you didn't want to be the one who destroyed him. You weren't. His own actions destroyed him. I just helped speed up the inevitable." I should have been angry, should have felt manipulated. "Thank you," I said instead. "You're welcome. How's the pregnancy?" "What pregnancy?" "Jennifer's. She's about 3 months along, isn't she? Probably came to you for help." "How did you—" "I make it my business to know things, especially about my clients' ex-husbands. So what did you do?" "Sent her to the women's shelter we support." "Good. That's good. You're better than he deserves." "I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for her. And for the kid who didn't ask for any of this." Still counts as good in my book. After we hung up, I called Luca. "Jennifer just left my office," I said. "Daniel's Jennifer?" "Yes, she's pregnant and broke. He's been arrested for fraud." Silence. Then, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I am. Is that weird?" "No, It's growth. You've moved past it. I sent her to the shelter, the one we donate to. Of course you did. What does that mean? It means you're exactly who I thought you were. Someone who helps people even when they don't deserve it.
She deserves it. The baby deserves it. Daniel doesn't, but they do. See? Good person. I'm really not.
You really are. You just don't want to admit it. That night, Luca and I had dinner with Vincent to discuss year-end financials. Whitmore Industries had exceeded every projection. Stock prices were at an all-time high. The board was happy. The shareholders were ecstatic. Your father would be proud, Vincent said over dessert. You keep saying that. Because it's true. You've taken everything he built and made it better. That's the best legacy you could give him. I've also made a lot of enemies. Harold still wants me out. So do half the old guard. Let them want. You have controlling interest. They can't touch you. They can make things difficult. They can try. But you're smarter than they are, and more ruthless when you need to be. Luca laughed. She definitely inherited that from Marcus. I'm sitting right here, I said. We know. That's why we're complimenting you. The annual shareholders meeting was scheduled for January. My first one as CEO. I prepared for it like I was preparing for war. Rehearsed my presentation 50 times, memorized every financial figure, anticipated every possible question. You're going to be fine, Luca said the night before. You don't know that. I do. Because I've seen you handle board meetings, hostile takeovers, and corporate politics that would destroy most people. This is just more of the same. This is different. This is hundreds of shareholders who all have opinions about whether I'm qualified to run this company. And you're going to prove them right or wrong, depending on their current opinion. He pulled me close. Either way, I'll be there. In the audience? Front row. So when they inevitably try to tear you down, you can look at me and remember that at least one person thinks you're brilliant. Just one? Well, Vincent too, and probably half the board by now, but I'm the one who matters. The meeting was held in the ballroom of the Fairmont, same place as the gala where everything had started. Different context, same stakes. I walked in wearing my mother's pearls and my own confidence. The room was packed. Shareholders, press, analysts, everyone who wanted to see if Marcus Whitmore's daughter could actually pull this off. Harold was there, sitting in the front row with his usual expression of barely concealed disdain. Patricia sat a few seats over, looking cautiously optimistic. The rest of the board was scattered throughout, watching carefully. Luca sat exactly where he'd promised. Front row, off to the side. When our eyes met, he smiled. I started the presentation. Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm Aria Whitmore. 6 months ago, my father passed away and left me this company. I know many of you had concerns, still have concerns, about whether I'm qualified, whether I'm ready, whether I can do what needs to be done. I pulled up the first slide. Financial charts, all trending upward. Here's what I've done in 6 months. Acquired 5 tech startups, partnered with 3 major corporations, launched an innovation fund, diversified our portfolio, and increased stock value by 43%. Murmurs through the crowd, some positive, some skeptical. My father built this company on traditional foundations, real estate, manufacturing, conventional investments, solid foundations that generated steady returns for decades. But times change, industries evolve, and companies that don't adapt die. Another slide. Projections for the next 5 years. This is where we're going. Maintaining our traditional holdings while expanding aggressively into emerging markets. Artificial intelligence, renewable energy, biotech, space exploration. The industries that will define the next century. Harold raised his hand. Those are also the riskiest investments. What happens when they fail? They won't all fail. Some will. That's the nature of innovation. But the ones that succeed will more than compensate for the losses. That's how you build the future. Or lose everything chasing trends, he countered. My father took risks too. He bought properties everyone said were worthless, invested in companies no one believed in, made deals people called insane. And he built an empire. I'm doing the same thing, just in different industries. Patricia spoke up. What about the traditional shareholders, the ones who invested for stability, not speculation? Good question. One I'd anticipated. The traditional divisions remain profitable and stable,
Real estate alone generated $800 million in revenue last year. Manufacturing brought in another $600 million. I'm not abandoning what works. I'm adding to it. Shareholders who want stability can focus on those dividends. Shareholders who want growth can benefit from the innovation fund. Everyone wins. The presentation lasted 90 minutes. Questions, challenges, debates. But by the end, even the skeptics had to admit the numbers worked. When I finished, there was applause. Not universal, not overwhelming, but genuine. Luca was grinning. The shareholder vote on my leadership was 87% in favor. Harold voted against, along with a few other old guard members. But they were outnumbered. I'd won. After the meeting, reporters tried to corner me for quotes. I gave them the standard corporate answers and escaped to where Luca was waiting. "You were incredible," he said. I was terrified. Same thing. We went back to the office. I had another meeting in an hour, a potential acquisition that needed my approval. But right now, I just wanted to breathe. "I keep waiting for it to get easier," I said, collapsing into my chair. "It won't. You'll just get better at handling hard, inspiring. I'm a realist, not a motivational speaker." My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Saw the meeting. "You were great. Congratulations." D. Daniel. Somehow still able to text from wherever he was being held. I showed it to Luca. "You going to respond?" he asked. "No, there's nothing to say." "Good. He doesn't deserve your attention." I deleted the message. February brought new challenges. A hostile takeover attempt from a competitor. Labor disputes at our manufacturing facilities. A scandal involving one of our subsidiaries that required immediate damage control. Being CEO meant putting out fires constantly. Some days I loved it. Some days I wanted to walk away from all of it. "Normal?" I asked Vincent during one particularly brutal week. "Completely normal. Your father had weeks like this too. He just didn't show it." How did he handle it? Compartmentalization. Deal with each problem methodically. Don't let them bleed into each other. And trust the people you've hired to do their jobs. Sound advice. I tried to follow it. The hostile takeover attempt failed. The labor disputes were resolved through negotiation. The scandal was contained and the subsidiary CEO was fired. By March, things had stabilized again. That's when I found out I was pregnant. I'd been feeling off for weeks. Exhausted, nauseous, emotional. I'd blamed it on stress. Luca had suggested I see a doctor. The pregnancy test came back positive. I sat in the bathroom of our penthouse, staring at the 2 pink lines, trying to process. Pregnant. I was pregnant. I'd never really thought about kids. With Daniel, it had always been someday. Someday when we had more money, more space, more time. Someday that never came. Now here I was, married to a different man, running a billion-dollar company, and pregnant. The timing was terrible. I was 6 months into the CEO position, still proving myself, still fighting for legitimacy. Taking maternity leave now would give Harold and his faction ammunition to push me out. But the timing was also perfect. I was married to someone I loved, financially stable, in a position to give a child everything. I heard Luca come home, heard him moving around in the kitchen. "Arya?" he called. "You here?" Bathroom. He appeared in the doorway, saw my face, saw the test in my hand. "Is that what?" "Positive. I'm pregnant." For a moment, he just stood there. Then he crossed the room, pulled me into his arms, and laughed. Actually laughed. "We're having a baby," he said. "I know. I was there when it happened. This is..." He pulled back, looked at me. "Are you happy? Please tell me you're happy." Was I? I was terrified, overwhelmed, completely unprepared. "Yes," I said. "I'm happy." "Good, because I'm thrilled. Completely, absolutely thrilled." We told Vincent first. He looked delighted and concerned in equal measure. "Congratulations," he said. "This is wonderful news. Have you thought about timing?" "I'm about 6 weeks along, due in October." "And maternity leave?" "I'll figure it out. Women run companies and have babies. I can do both." "Of course you can, but you'll need a plan. The board will have questions." He was right. I announced the pregnancy at the next board meeting. The reactions were mixed. Patricia looked thrilled. A few others offered genuine congratulations. Harold looked calculating. This changes things, he said. Your availability, your focus. Perhaps we should discuss interim arrangements. No interim arrangements. I'll be here through September. Take October off for the birth and recovery. Back in November. That's 3 months away, and I'll be available remotely if needed. And if there are complications?
Then I'll deal with them, like I deal with everything else.
The meeting moved on, but I could feel the shift, some board members questioning whether I could handle it all, others supportive but concerned. I worked harder than ever after that, determined to prove pregnancy didn't make me weak or incapable. Closed 3 major deals in April, launched a new division in May, exceeded every quarterly target. By June, I was showing, not dramatically, but enough that people noticed. The press had a field day with it. CEO Aria Whitmore expecting first child. Can she balance boardroom and baby? The pregnancy that's dividing Wall Street. I ignored all of it. What I couldn't ignore was how exhausted I felt, how every day was a battle between what I wanted to do and what my body could actually handle. Luca noticed. You need to slow down, he said one night when I came home at 11. I can't, not now. Yes, you can. You're 6 months pregnant. You're supposed to be taking care of yourself. I am taking care of myself, and the company, and everything else. Aria, don't. Please don't tell me I'm doing too much. Everyone already thinks I can't handle this. I need to prove them wrong. You've already proven them wrong, multiple times. You have nothing left to prove. That's not how it works. I'm a woman running a company in a male-dominated industry. I'm pregnant on top of that. Every single day someone is waiting for me to fail. I can't give them the satisfaction. He looked frustrated. What about giving yourself the satisfaction of rest? I'll rest when I'm dead. That's what I'm afraid of. We fought about it for weeks. Luca wanted me to delegate more, work less, take care of myself. I wanted to prove I could do it all without compromising anything. We were both right. We were both wrong. In July, I had a scare, cramping, spotting, everything the pregnancy books warn you about. Luca rushed me to the hospital at 3 a.m. The baby was fine, but the doctor was blunt. You need to reduce your stress, significantly, or you risk complications. I'm running a company. Stress comes with the territory. Then you need to decide what's more important, the company or your child. It wasn't that simple. It was never that simple. But lying in that hospital bed, monitors beeping, Luca holding my hand with fear in his eyes, I realized something. I'd spent my entire life proving myself to people who'd never fully accept me anyway. My father, the board, society, Daniel. Maybe it was time to stop. Okay, I said, I'll slow down. Luca looked relieved. Really? Really? I'll delegate more. Work from home when possible. Take care of myself. Thank you. I started working from home 3 days a week. Delegated projects I'd been micromanaging. Hired an assistant CEO to handle day-to-day operations while I focused on strategy. Patricia took on more responsibility. Turned out she was brilliant at operations. Should have been CEO herself years ago, but the old guard had never given her the chance. Thank you, she said when I promoted her to COO, for trusting me with this. I should have done it months ago. You're more qualified than half the board. That's not saying much. We both laughed. By August, I'd found a rhythm that worked. Still involved in major decisions, still steering the company, but not drowning in minutiae. And the company didn't fall apart. Actually thrived. Turned out I didn't have to do everything myself. I just had to trust the right people. The baby was due October 15th. We decided not to find out the gender. Wanted it to be a surprise. What if I'm terrible at this? I asked Luca one night in September. At what? Being a mother. What if I'm as bad at it as I was at being a wife the first time? You weren't bad at being a wife. You were married to the wrong person. There's a difference. Still, I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither does anyone else. We'll figure it out together. September turned to October. I was huge, uncomfortable, ready for this pregnancy to be over. Board meetings were exhausting. Walking was exhausting. Existing was exhausting. Any day now, the doctor said at my last appointment. It took 3 more days. I was in a board meeting when my water broke, literally in the middle of presenting quarterly projections. Patricia saw my face change. Are you? Yes, I need to go.
Now. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Harold looked horrified. Patricia looked thrilled. Someone called Luca. He met me at the hospital 20 minutes later, having apparently broken every traffic law getting there. "You okay?" he asked, breathless. "Define okay?" "I'm about to push a human out of my body." "Right. Stupid question." Labor was 17 hours. Long, painful, exhausting. Luca stayed the entire time, holding my hand, letting me yell at him, being exactly what I needed. At 3:47 a.m. on October 18th, our daughter was born. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. We named her Elena, after Luca's mother. When they placed her in my arms, I felt something I'd never felt before. Not love. I'd felt love. This was different. This was fierce, protective, all-consuming. This was being responsible for another human's entire existence. "Hello, Elena," I whispered. "Welcome to the chaos." She opened her eyes, dark like Luca's, and looked at me like she understood. Maybe she did. Luca sat beside me, staring at our daughter with wonder. "We made that," he said. "I know. We're probably in trouble." Definitely in trouble. We stayed in the hospital for 2 days, then went home to the penthouse where Carson had helped set up a nursery that looked like something from a magazine. The first week was hell. Elena didn't sleep. Neither did we. I'd never been so exhausted in my life. "I run a billion-dollar company," I said at 4 a.m. while trying to get Elena to stop crying. "How is this harder?" "Because companies are predictable. Babies aren't. I want a refund." "Too late. No returns policy." But somewhere around week 2, something shifted. Elena settled into a routine. We learned her cries, her needs, her personality. She was stubborn, determined, refused to sleep when she didn't want to, refused to eat when she wasn't hungry. "She's your daughter," Luca said. "She's our daughter, and she has your attitude." "My charm, you mean?" "Sure, let's call it that." I took 12 weeks off. 12 weeks of just being a mother, not a CEO. 12 weeks of discovering who I was outside of work. It was harder than running the company. It was also better. Vincent and Patricia ran things while I was gone, sent me weekly updates, made decisions without needing my approval. The company didn't fall apart without me. That should have been reassuring. Instead, it was terrifying. "What if they don't need me?" I asked Luca one night while Elena slept. "They do need you, just differently. You're the vision, they're the execution." "What if I'm not ready to go back?" "Then don't. We have enough money. You don't have to work." "I want to work. I don't want to miss this. Her growing up." "You won't. We'll figure it out, like everything else." When Elena was 3 months old, I went back to work. Part-time at first. 3 days a week in the office, 2 days remote. It was hard leaving her, harder than I'd expected, but it was also necessary. For my sanity, for my sense of self. I'd spent so long building this company, fighting for this position. I couldn't just walk away. So I found balance, or something like it. Work in the morning, home for dinner, Elena's bedtime routine, then a few more hours of work after she was asleep. It wasn't perfect. Some days I felt like I was failing at everything. CEO, wife, mother. But most days I felt like I was succeeding at enough. That had to be good enough. Elena was 6 months old when I got the call that would change everything again. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office reviewing contracts when my assistant buzzed. "Mrs. Moretti, there's a call from the state penitentiary. Someone named Daniel Cross is asking to speak with you." I hadn't heard his name in months, hadn't thought about him except in passing. He belonged to a different version of my life, one that felt distant and almost fictional. "I'll take it," I said. There was a long pause before his voice came through. Rougher than I remembered, tired. "Arya, thank you for taking my call." "What do you want, Daniel?" "I'm being released. Next month. Early release for good behavior." I felt nothing, not anger, not satisfaction, just mild curiosity about why he was telling me this. "Congratulations." "Why are you calling?" "Because I wanted you to hear it from me, not from the news or through someone else. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry, for all of it." "You already apologized. At my wedding, remember?" "I do." But I was still thinking about myself then, what I'd lost. Now,
He stopped. Now I understand what I actually did, the person I hurt. And I'm sorry. I could have hung up, should have probably. But something made me ask, what are you going to do when you get out?
Start over, somewhere else. Jennifer's in Portland with the baby, a boy. She sent me pictures. I don't know if she'll let me be part of his life, but I want to try. Want to be better than I was. Good luck with that. Arya, I mean it. I hope you figure it out. I hope you become the person you should have been. But that has nothing to do with me anymore. I know. I just needed you to know that you were right about everything. I didn't see you, didn't value you, and I've spent 2 years in here understanding exactly what I threw away. That must be hard for you. There was a long silence. Then, I deserve that. I deserve all of it. But for what it's worth, I'm glad you're happy. That you found someone who sees you. That you became who you were meant to be. I didn't become anything. I just stopped pretending to be something I wasn't.
Even better. After we hung up, I sat at my desk thinking about the strange arc of it all. How the man who'd broken my heart was now just a voice on a phone. How the betrayal that had shattered everything had actually freed me to build something better. Luca called right as I was about to leave for the day. Daniel called me, I said. And? And nothing. He's getting out of prison. Wanted to apologize. Again. How do you feel about that? Indifferent. Is that weird? No. That's exactly what moving on looks like. I went home to our penthouse, where Elena was playing in her nursery with the nanny we'd hired, a kind woman named Rosa who'd raised 4 kids of her own and had infinite patience for our daughter's stubbornness. How was she today? I asked. Wonderful. Strong-willed, but wonderful. She tried to pull herself up on the coffee table 3 times. Won't give up. I smiled. She gets that from her father. And her mother, Rosa said knowingly. After Rosa left, I spent the evening with Elena. Bath time, dinner, books, bedtime routine. Simple things that had become the anchoring points of my life. Luca came home around 8, loosened his tie, and collapsed on the couch. Long day? I asked. Endless. 3 deals fell through. 2 more are on life support. Some days I wonder why I do this. Because you love it. Most days, today I just wanted to come home. You're home now. He pulled me down beside him. How was your day? I told him about Daniel's call, about the strange lack of feeling I'd had about it, about realizing that chapter of my life was finally, truly closed. Good, Luca said. You deserve to be free of all that. I am. I really am. It just took me a while to realize it. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the city sounds through the windows, the quiet hum of our life together. I've been thinking, Luca said eventually, about the future, about what we want. What do you want? More of this. You, Elena, maybe another kid, eventually, building something that actually matters instead of just making money. You think what we do doesn't matter? I think it matters, but I also think there's more. I want Elena to grow up knowing we did something good with what we had, not just accumulated wealth. What did you have in mind? A foundation, using our resources to actually help people, education, housing, whatever makes a difference. It was exactly what I'd been thinking about too. How to use my position for something beyond shareholder value. How to honor my father's legacy while building my own. Let's do it, I said. Really? Really, start small. Figure out what works. Build from there. He kissed me. This is why I love you. Because I agree with your ideas? Because you always know what matters. We started planning the foundation that night, sketching out ideas on napkins, arguing about focus areas, getting excited about possibilities. By the time we went to bed, we had a rough outline of something that could actually work. The next morning, I called Patricia. I need to talk to you about something, I said. We met for lunch at a quiet restaurant downtown. I laid out the foundation idea. Explained that I wanted to do more with Whitmore Industries than just generate profit. I want to create a philanthropic division, I said. Something that uses our resources to make actual change. Education programs, affordable housing, job training. I know it's not traditional for a company like ours, but it's brilliant, Patricia interrupted. And overdue.
I've been wanting to suggest something similar for years. Really? Really? Your father was a genius at business, but he never thought about legacy beyond the balance sheet. You're thinking bigger. That's exactly what this company needs. We spent the next 3 months building the framework, created the Whitmore Foundation with an initial endowment of $50 million, hired a director who'd spent 20 years in nonprofit work, identified key areas where we could make real impact. The board had mixed reactions. Harold predictably hated it. "This is a waste of shareholder resources," he said at the announcement meeting. "No," I corrected. "This is an investment in the communities that support us. Corporate social responsibility isn't just good ethics, it's good business." "That's idealistic nonsense." "Then I'm idealistic. But the foundation is happening whether you support it or not." It launched in April. The press coverage was extensive. Aria Whitmore creates $50 million foundation. From boardroom to philanthropy. The CEO who wants to change the world. I ignored most of it. Focused on the work instead of the publicity. The first initiative was education. Scholarships for underprivileged students. Funding for schools in low-income areas. Job training programs for adults trying to restart their careers. One of the first recipients was Jennifer. She'd enrolled in the foundation's job training program. Didn't know I was behind it until she showed up for orientation and saw my picture on the wall. She called me afterward. "I didn't know," she said. "The foundation. I didn't realize it was yours." "Does it matter?" "I don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's an opportunity. What you do with it is up to you." She completed the program, got a job as a paralegal, started building a life for herself and her son. I didn't tell Luca I'd helped her specifically. Some things you did because they were right, not because they earned you credit. By summer, the foundation had helped over 500 people. Students going to college who couldn't afford it otherwise, families moving into affordable housing, adults learning new skills to restart their careers. It was the most satisfying work I'd ever done. Better than closing deals or increasing stock prices, because it actually changed lives in ways I could see and measure. Elena turned 1 in October. We threw a party at the house in Presidio Heights, small, just family and close friends. Rosa, Vincent, Patricia, a few of Luca's business partners, some parents from the baby group I'd reluctantly joined. Elena wore a ridiculous purple dress and got frosting everywhere. It was perfect. Watching her smash her birthday cake, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The betrayal, the divorce, the grief, the transformation. All of it had been necessary to get here. "What are you thinking about?" Luca asked, appearing beside me with a glass of wine. "How different my life is from what I thought it would be." "Better or worse?" "Different, better. I don't know, just different." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I have." That night, after everyone left and Elena was asleep, Luca and I sat on the terrace overlooking the city. "I heard from Daniel today," he said. I looked over. "What did he want?" "To thank you for helping Jennifer. He knows it was you behind the scholarship, the job training." "I didn't do it for him." "I know, so does he. But he wanted you to know he's grateful anyway." "He's rebuilt his life?" "His trying to. Got a job in Portland. Jennifer's letting him see his son on weekends. He's taking it slow." "Good for him, I mean that." "I know you do. That's what makes you different from most people. You actually want him to be okay." "I don't want him to suffer. That doesn't mean I want him in my life." "Fair distinction." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the lights of the city spread out below us. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if he hadn't cheated?" Luca asked. "Sometimes. I'd probably still be in that condo, working at the tech company, living small, wondering why I felt so hollow. Any regrets? About him? No. About the time I wasted? Maybe. But I learned things in those 7 years about myself, about what I don't want. That's worth something." "What did you learn?" I thought about it. That love shouldn't make you smaller. That trust without respect is meaningless. That being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't see you. That sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. Deep thoughts for a Tuesday night. "You asked." He pulled me closer. "I did, and I'm glad, because it helps me understand why you are the way you are. And how am I? Fierce, protective, willing to fight for what matters,
but also kind. More than you want to admit.
I'm not kind. I'm practical. You helped your ex-husband's mistress get on her feet. That's not practical. That's kind. It was for the baby. Kids don't get to choose their parents. Still counts.
The following year passed in a blur of growth. Elena started walking, then running, then getting into everything. The company continued thriving. The foundation expanded to 3 more cities. Life settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable. Harold retired. Finally, took his shares and left, muttering about how the company was going in the wrong direction. Stock prices hit record highs 3 months later. Patricia became my closest advisor. We built a partnership based on mutual respect and complementary skills. She was brilliant at operations. I was better at vision. Together, we were formidable. "We should have been doing this from the start," she said one day over coffee. "Better late than never." "Your father would have liked this. What we've built." "You think?"
And I know. He called me once, about a year before he died. Told me to look after you when the time came. Said you'd need someone who understood the business but wasn't afraid to challenge you.
He said that?
He did.
Said you were brilliant but stubborn, that you'd need someone to push back when necessary. He wasn't wrong. No, but neither were you, about any of it. The tech investments, the foundation, the direction of the company. You've proven yourself 100 times over. It was the validation I didn't know I needed. When Elena turned 2, Luca and I started talking about another child. Not trying yet, just discussing. Weighing whether we wanted to go through it all again, the sleepless nights, the chaos, the complete upheaval of life as we knew it. "I think I do," I said one night. "Want another one?" Eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Elena should have a sibling, someone to fight with and protect and grow up alongside. Speaking from experience? Speaking from wishful thinking, I was an only child. It was lonely. Okay, let's do it. Not yet. Maybe next year, when things are more stable. Things will never be stable. That's not how our lives work. He was right. Things were never stable. There was always a crisis, always a challenge, always something that needed immediate attention. But that was okay. I'd learned to handle chaos, had learned that stability was overrated anyway.
The annual gala that had started everything came around again. Same venue, same crowd, same performance art of wealth and power. But I was different now. Not the broken woman who'd shown up to prove a point, not the grieving daughter trying to honor her father, just Arya, CEO, wife, mother, comfortable in all those roles. We arrived fashionably late. I wore red this time, bold, unapologetic. Luca wore his usual black. "Ready for this?" he asked as we walked in. "Always."
The room fell quiet when we entered.
Not because of scandal or drama, just recognition, respect. I'd earned that respect, not through my father's legacy, though that had opened doors, not through my marriage to Luca, though that had helped, through my own work, my own decisions, my own vision. Margaret Chen approached first.
"Arya, darling, you look radiant." "Thank you, Margaret. We were just talking about the foundation. What you've accomplished in such a short time is remarkable. It's a team effort." "Don't be modest. We all know who's driving it." Patricia appeared with champagne.
"Saving you from small talk," she said under her breath. "My hero." We circulated through the room, talked business, made connections, played the game we both understood now. But unlike before, I didn't feel like I was performing. This was just part of who I was. Halfway through the evening, I saw someone I didn't expect. Jennifer. She was standing near the bar, wearing a simple black dress, looking uncomfortable but determined. I excused myself and walked over. "Jennifer, what are you doing here?" "I was invited, through the foundation. They're honoring scholarship recipients. I didn't know you'd be here." "It's my foundation. Of course I'm here." "Right. I should have thought of that." She twisted her hands nervously. "I wanted to thank you for everything. The scholarship, the job training, all of it. You changed my life." "You changed your own life. I just provided resources. Still, you didn't have to help me after everything. Everyone deserves a second chance, even people who make mistakes." Daniel said the same thing. "How is he?" "Good. Really good." He's working construction in Portland, rebuilding houses. Says it's fitting, rebuilding structures while rebuilding his life. That's very poetic for Daniel, she laughed. He's changed. We both have. We're not together anymore, but we're good co-parents. That's enough. More than enough. That's healthy. Someone called my name. I turned to see Luca waving me over. I should go, I said to Jennifer. Thank you again for everything. You're welcome. And Jennifer, keep going. You're doing great. She smiled, actually smiled. I will. I went back to Luca, who pulled me onto the dance floor. What was that about? He asked. Closure. Real closure this time. Good. You deserve that. We danced, not for show, not for the cameras, just because we wanted to, because sometimes the simple things were the best things. Later during the speeches, they announced the foundation's impact numbers. Over 2,000 people helped in the first year. $50 million deployed. Lives changed in measurable, meaningful ways. When they called me to the stage, I almost said no. But Luca nudged me forward. I took the microphone, looked out at the sea of faces. 2 years ago, I stood in a room like this and felt lost. I'd just ended a marriage, was about to lose my father, had no idea who I was or what I wanted. I was playing a role I didn't understand, wearing clothes that didn't fit, trying to be someone I wasn't. People were listening now, really listening. My father used to say that the worst failures are the ones we're too afraid to risk, that playing it safe is just a slow form of dying. I didn't understand what he meant until I lost everything, until I had to rebuild from nothing. I looked at Luca, at Patricia, at Vincent. What I learned is that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what actually matters. That betrayal can be a gift if it forces you to wake up. That the person you're supposed to be is usually buried under the person you think you should be. I set down the prepared speech I hadn't used. This foundation exists because I know what it's like to feel trapped, to feel like there's no way forward, to believe you're stuck with the choices you've already made. And I want people to know they're not. That it's never too late to start over. That second chances aren't just possible, they're necessary. I got a second chance. Jennifer got a second chance. Every person this foundation has helped got a second chance. And I'm committed to making sure thousands more get the same opportunity. Because everyone deserves the chance to become who they're meant to be, not who they were told to be, not who circumstances force them to be, who they actually are underneath all the fear and doubt and other people's expectations. The room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. I walked off the stage feeling lighter than I had in years. The rest of the evening passed in celebration, people congratulating me, sharing their own stories of transformation, thanking me for creating something that mattered. But the moment that stuck with me came at the end of the night. We were leaving, walking to the car when someone called my name. I turned. It was Harold. Mr. Chen, I didn't think you'd be here. I almost wasn't, but Margaret insisted. He looked uncomfortable. I wanted to apologize for fighting you at every turn, for doubting you, for trying to push you out. You were protecting what my father built. I understand. No, I was protecting my own ego. Your father chose you for a reason. I was too arrogant to see it. He extended his hand. You've done remarkable things with this company, better than I would have done, better than your father could have imagined. I shook his hand. Thank you. That means a lot. Keep doing what you're doing. The company, the city, is better for it. He walked away before I could respond. Did that just happen? I asked Luca. It did. Hell must have frozen over. We drove home through the quiet city streets. Elena was asleep when we got there, sprawled in her crib like she'd fought bedtime until the last possible second. I stood in her doorway watching her breathe, this tiny human Luca and I had created, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. For this life, this family, this chance to build something real. Come to bed, Luca whispered from behind me. In a minute. But I stayed longer, watching Elena sleep, thinking about everything that had led here. The truth was, I'd needed Daniel to betray me, needed my father to die, needed to lose everything so I could find what actually mattered. That didn't make any of it easier, didn't erase the pain or the grief or the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, but it gave it meaning. And meaning was everything. 3 years after my divorce from Daniel, 5 years after my father's death, I stood at the pinnacle of everything I'd built and realized something important. I wasn't the woman who'd hidden her identity to marry a man who didn't deserve her. I wasn't the broken daughter grieving a father she'd been estranged from for years. I wasn't even the fierce CEO fighting for legitimacy in a male-dominated industry. I was all of those things, and none of them. I was Aria Whitmore Moretti, mother, wife, CEO, philanthropist. Flawed, fierce, still figuring it out. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The last time I heard from Daniel was a letter that arrived on my office desk one ordinary Wednesday. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. I almost threw it away unread. Instead, I opened it. The letter was short. Just a few paragraphs thanking me for helping Jennifer, for giving him a chance to be a better father, for not destroying him when I easily could have. He said he understood now what he'd lost, what he'd never valued, what he'd been too blind to see. He wished me happiness, said he hoped I'd found what I was looking for. The last line stayed with me. You were always too big for the small life I tried to give you. I'm glad you finally realized it. I folded the letter, put it in my desk drawer, and never looked at it again. Because he was right. I had been too big for that life. Too big for anyone who needed me small to feel big themselves. And now I was exactly the right size for the life I'd built. That evening, I went home early, played with Elena, had dinner with Luca, read bedtime stories until Elena fell asleep mid-sentence. Luca and I sat on the terrace like we did most nights, watching the city lights, talking about everything and nothing. You're quiet tonight, he said. Just thinking. About? How far I've come, how different everything is, how grateful I am. For what? For you, for Elena, for the chance to start over, for learning that losing everything sometimes means finding what you actually needed all along. He pulled me closer. That's the most sentimental thing you've ever said. Don't get used to it. Too late. We sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment, who'd built something real out of the wreckage of our individual pasts. I thought about the girl I'd been 7 years ago. Naive, idealistic, convinced love could conquer anything. She'd been wrong about a lot of things, but she'd been right about wanting something real, something true, something worth fighting for. She'd just been looking in the wrong place. The life I'd built wasn't perfect. Some days the company was a nightmare. Some days motherhood felt impossible. Some days I wanted to run away from all of it. But it was mine, built on my terms, with my choices, according to my values. And that made all the difference. Because in the end, that's what mattered. Not whether you made mistakes or took wrong turns or trusted the wrong people. Everyone did that. What mattered was whether you learned from it, whether you let it break you or build you, whether you chose to stay small or grow into who you were always meant to be. I'd chosen growth, chosen courage over comfort, chosen myself over other people's expectations, and I'd become someone I was proud to be. Not perfect, not without flaws or doubts or moments of weakness, but real, honest, whole. That was the victory. Not destroying Daniel, not proving the board wrong, not even building a successful company or foundation. The victory was becoming myself, fully, completely, unapologetically. Everything else was just details. Luca squeezed my hand. What are you smiling about? Everything. Absolutely everything. Care to share? Not really. Some things you just feel. Fair enough. We stayed on that terrace until late, watching the city we both loved, building the life we'd both fought for. And when we finally went inside to the home we'd created, to the daughter we were raising, to the future we were building together, I felt something I'd never felt with Daniel. I felt seen, known, valued for exactly who I was. That was love, real love. The kind that made you bigger instead of smaller. The kind that gave you wings instead of chains. 7 years ago, I'd stood in a hotel hallway and watched my marriage die. Tonight, I stood in my home and watched my real life thrive. The difference was everything. And I wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that brought me here. Not the betrayal, not the pain, not the grief, not the fear. Because all of it, every moment, every choice, every mistake, had led me exactly where I needed to be. Standing tall, taking up space, being exactly who I was meant to be. A woman who chose herself and built an empire from the ashes of everything she lost. That was my story, my victory. my truth. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.